Om Swastiastu. Hello, good evening, students. Welcome to the third video for English course in Architecture Department in Ngurah Rai University. Today will be learning about geometry in architecture. Before that, at the previous course, I already introduced you to geometry and architecture also. Today's discussion is mainly about what is the difference between shapes and form. Shapes is a two-dimensional object and form is a three-dimensional object. So that's the difference between shape and form. For instance, the circle is a shape and the sphere is a form. There are many kinds of shapes also, from square, circle, triangle, rectangle, scalene, pentagon, right, trapeze, kite, polygon, parallelogram, ellipse, trefoil, star, semicircle, hexagon, crescent, octagon, cross, ring, pig, heart, arrow, quadrophile, and rhombus. They are all kind of shapes, and you should know their names by English also, because it will help you guys for the next lectures. Like this instance, this is a square, and the square and shapes is not always in architecture. It's not always that you should only consider form in your work. Square is shapes, and a square also can be found in many architecture design, architecture works, and you can apply it everywhere, including in your elevation of your work. Like this one, there are different kind of shapes in their front elevation, and this one is the same square, but it has a different coloring, so it attracts more uniqueness than the others. And then we have triangle shapes. Triangle is one of the stable shapes, so it has 3 points and it comes in the stable shape, so you can add triangle and it can create monumental design. And then we have circle shapes, and this one is from Roman in Vatican, Basilia Saint Peter, and you can see many kind of circle. This one is not a sphere, but it's a circle. And then we have forms. Example of form is cube, cuboid, square base pyramid, cone, triangle prism, triangular base pyramid, cylinder, and sphere. So this one is another illustration image of the difference between shapes and form. So shape is two-dimensional and form is three-dimensional. Two-dimensional shape consists in length dimension and width dimension, but three-dimensional also have height dimension. So two-dimensional or shape is not having height dimension, but three-dimensional have it height dimension. Shape have 2 dimension and form has 3 dimension. This kind of form is from cube. So the implementation of cube in the architecture works And then this is example for pyramid or cone architecture. So we have a lot of triangle, and then they have height, so it became pyramid or cone. And then we have sphere form for architecture. You can look into this kind of image. Some of the work is not done yet, it's only a concept, but I can assure you that this kind of work can attract you more to design more creatively than this one. And then if we talk about form, we will know that there are two kinds of form. There is regular and irregular form. Regular form is like this. It has its own rhythm. And then you have irregular form, like the construction style in architecture is just like this one. So it don't have a regular, or it doesn't have a rhythm for its forms, but it's still nice aesthetic. And then we have transformation of form. The first one is dimensional form. How to create this kind of form with dimensional, how you can achieve this kind of form by doing dimensional transformation work. And then you have subtractive transformation, and then additive transformation. So I will make you remember again about why use geometry in architecture, because architecture is always begin with geometry. Since the earliest time, architects have relied on mathematical principle. The same image that I have shown you previously before from Vitruvius, that it said, "For without symmetry and proportion, no temple can have a regular plan." There are many forms of geometry. The first is natural geometry. It is a pattern that can be found everywhere in the nature. It is in the nature, you can see it all, and you can feel their geometry, their pattern. But some of you may not recognize it. This is a pattern from the branch of a tree, a snow and zebra letter pattern. You can see this now, ticklish, and then a bee house. So natural geometry is most commonly found in natural patterns that are symmetry, that is the near repetition of a pattern element by reflection or rotation, and spiral patterns. It is a continuous and gradually widening or tightening curve around central point. You have fractal pattern, that is similar pattern requiring at progressively smaller scales, and you have tessellation, that is a pattern formed by repeating tiles on a flat surface. Geometry is also considered in history, like in Asian civilization, is in Mesopotamia, as a cradle of civilization, in Sumerian temple, or in Aztec in Middle America. They have a similar kind of geometric forms in their temples. So, and then we have Sumerian, we have Egypt, and then the Great Pyramid of Giza, that is inspired Empire, the architect that built the pyramid in the front of the Louvre Museum, that is where the Da Vinci Code film take place. This kind of geometric form from the pyramid. We have Greek, ancient Greek geometric pattern. A to B is A as A is to B. So they have golden ratio, and then their theater and the Roman Empire, the Colosseum is made by geometric calculation. So it's their Colosseum and become inspiration for the modern stadium now. Taj Mahal as a mausoleum in India, it is a reflection of symmetry. Versailles. And then if you talk about symmetry, I have a good example in symmetry in Rome or Paris. So there are this line that in modern Paris now that connect Grande Arc to Arc de Carousel. That is Grande Arc, and then we have Arc de Triomphe, we have Luxor Obelix, and Arc de Carousel. They as an architect form is connected by this rose line that is also been said in the Da Vinci Code film. In Indonesia, we have this hierarchy of symmetry, like in Versailles. I only came out with a couple of examples. For instance, is in the Yogyakarta. So Yogyakarta has a line that stretch from Gunung Merapi to Tugu Monument, and then to Keraton Yogyakarta, Panggung Krapia, and then it ends in South Sea. But in my previous campus in Institute Technology of Bandung, the same example is used, but when they are designing the campus, the university, they are having their imaginary line, like in Versailles or in Yogyakarta or in Paris also. The north direction is from Tangkuban Perahu mountain, and the south is to Gunung Galunggung. So it has, ITB has a line that is not occupied by any architecture monument or so, or building. So the line is connecting the Tangkuban Perahu view to Gunung Galunggung. We have these polygons shapes also, and in some modern building, I also already talked about it last week. In London, you have similar shapes and form everywhere. So our modern building is also being affected by the form and the shapes, geometry, the use of it, how to create geometry in a very aesthetic, a very good environment. In Dubai, the rotational solid for their towering, their concept tower is from the wave, piano house, Mio viaduct, and then we have this kind of forms, and the next one is I want to talk about the famous architect and their fun of form. So some of the famous architects that you know have their fun or their likeness of form. So they like kind of form and regularly use that kind of form in their works. Like for instance, we have Frank Lloyd Wright, font with cube and square in his earliest works, like in Falling Water. And then we have Le Corbusier, that is more fun for more dynamic flexibility, shapes and form in his work. And then we have Santiago Calatrava, that has very unique likeness of form. And then the last one, I have Zaha Hadid with her futuristic or irregular form also. So so that's it. That's a kind of shapes and form that is being used in architecture, and the difference between the shapes and the forms, and how to apply it on your design. Especially, you can apply shapes, for instance, on your plan or on your facade, and you can apply form as a whole in your facade or a fraction of your facade. Thank you for listening for my course today. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you understand. And I'll see you again next week. Om Santi 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 Om.